I'd like to call the Graham County Board of Education regular meeting, January 3rd, 2023 to order. Mr. Matheson, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father God, I just want to thank you, dear Lord, for this day, dear God. Just thank you for this board, dear Lord. Just pray that you would be with them, dear God. Give them the wisdom they need to make the decisions that affect our school, dear Lord. Just pray that as we open back up this week, dear God, that you just bless each one of our kids and teachers, dear Lord. Pray that we would have a safe finish to our year, dear God, and just protect us, put a hedge around us, dear Lord. Dear God, just be with those that are in our military, that are overseas in harm's way, and just watch over them, dear God, I pray. Dear Lord, this morning I just like to thank you, dear God, for your Son, Jesus. I thank you, dear Lord, for the cross of Calvary and for the salvation that we can get through that, dear Lord. It's in your name that I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
No.
Any opposed?
Yeah, me.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to ask you just this little question about D on our agenda, that report, discussion, and items, and it says health services options review.
Yes.
Last month, you and I spoke about me talking about mask on the agenda, and you told me I could get it on the agenda.
Yes.
Notify these
Let me. School board members are not on the agenda.
Right.
So the subject is on the agenda, and when that comes, then we can discuss that.
Okay, so then when I'm in there, that's when my motion, I'm allowed to speak, and I can have what I want to say in that part.
Yes.
I approve it.
Do I have a motion to approve the November 30th, 2022 minutes and the December 6th minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the floor is now open for public comment period. Has anyone signed up? Okay. Do I have a motion to close public comment period?
Yes.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, administrator updates. Mr. Matheson, go ahead and go first for us.
So obviously we did our testing and everything at the end of the semester. Was actually pretty pleased with some of our test results. Math 3 especially was pretty good. And we'll be starting the next semester this week. Kids will be having 4 new teachers, going to 4 new classes. And we've had some sports going on over the Christmas break. Our boys and girls basketball team both competed up at Smoky Mountain. The boys went 2-1. Lost their first game of the year. They're 9-1 currently, which is still the best start I think we've had in school history. And they play at Hayesville tonight. Girls went 2-0 up at the tournament. I think they're 8-2 or something like that now. So both are having real successful seasons. And our wrestling team's been traveling all over the place. Would like to kind of give a shout out to Cage Williams, who at the Holy Angels tournament won his 100th match in his career, and also won the tournament by defeating the 4A state champions. So really great job to him, and we're excited to get school started back.
Thank you. Oh, Tanya, since you just came in, I'll let you go next.
Well, I apologize for being late, but we've been trying to move a little bit this morning. So we have got clearance to move into the new building. So we are starting to move some things into the offices, and we don't have to move much furniture. So hopefully when the kids come back, or we're planning on when the kids come back on Thursday, we'll be in the new building. So there are a few things that still need to be done. We've got temporary room signs up. We're waiting for those. I think Patrick is hanging fire extinguishers today. There was a light fixture that was broken that they're waiting for. So there's just a few small things that they're still working on. Adam's brothers were supposed to deliver dirt this morning to fill in the circle in the middle, but because of the rain, that's delayed. So hopefully they'll get that done in the next few days too. The light poles that go there are ready to put up as soon as we can move dirt. So that's pretty much it for the middle school. So
Thank you. Jamie?
Yes, at the elementary school before Christmas break on December 15th, we had our Christmas extravaganza, and we had approximately 616 folks come out to attend that event, so we feel like that was very successful. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. Tomorrow, our teachers, when they return back to an all-day Unit 5 letters training. So this will be Unit 5 of 8. So they will complete Units 5 and 6 this spring, and then next fall, Units 7 and 8, which will hopefully then allow them to complete that 2-year process. Of course, that's the state required literacy training, and they'll be doing Unit 5 tomorrow. And everyone's making good progress with that, staying on time with their assignments and different things. Crystal Buchanan's really been instrumental in supporting everybody as they move through that process. So it's going well. It's a lot of work for the teachers, but it's going really well. They say that it is good information. And then January 9th at the elementary school, that's our goal date for when report cards for the second 9 weeks will be sent home.
Thank you, Jamie. Mr. White, you have something for us?
I'm actually on item D. Do you want me to go ahead?
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
Okay.
Christie?
As Jamie reiterated about the Christmas extravaganza that's sponsored by Title I, that was a great turnout. Moving forward to our next event with that would be Brock and Reed. Got several different personnel moves, looking at professional development for those folks. Exceptional Children's got some vacancies with that, so we'll be working on that. And preschool is doing good, moving well with those children this year. Very pleased with how that's going.
Okay, thank you. Budget amendments, Mr. Green. We've got
It was fixed it up, going through 10 things.
Oh, I see going over there because.
Well, I'm gonna, as I go through these budget amendments, I'm gonna help our new board member so we can go through these budget amendments so she can see where my emphasis is gonna be on these pages. So, these are your budget amendments right here.
Okay.
All right, and for you, the first thing I'd like you to do.
It's you. I'm sorry. That's your chip, I'm sorry.
If you'll flip that over on the back, I want you to see the back page. There you go. I've written some items on there for you. This is just a real quick school finance information. In school finance, we have 6 separate funds. There's Fund 1, which is the state public school fund. That's pretty self-explanatory, funds that we receive from the state. Fund 2 is the local current expense fund. Majority of those funds are what we receive from the county. Next is the federal fund, it's Fund 3, funds that we receive from the federal government. Next is Fund 4, that's capital outlay. We account for capital projects in this fund. That's big ticket items such as the 6th grade wing, activity buses, new roofs. An item would be also like the new seating that we received at the football field a couple of years ago. So we account for those capital projects in that fund. Next is Fund 5, which is the child nutrition fund. All of those revenues, expenditures are tracked in that individual fund. And then lastly is Fund 8, where we account for our individual grants. Some of those grants that we receive are Impact Aid, Gear Up, School Nurse Grant. We've got a couple with the Native American program, so we track those individual grants in that fund. Okay. Here's another bit of information regarding state and federal funds. We receive allotments. Okay, what that means is state and federal government and grants as well tell us how much we get to spend. Now, here's an example. Our state allotment is a little over $11 million. Okay, now they don't write us a check for $11 million. Okay, they give us an allotment, and as we go through the year, when we have salary and benefits and expenditures we need to make for state and federal funds, we request funds to cover those checks. And that's kind of how that works.
Okay.
Okay? All right, if you'll flip that back over, we'll go through these budget amendments. Now, the budget amendments are for different funds. All right, and at the top there in the heading, you'll see in the third line, these are budget amendments for the state public school fund. Okay? Within the state public school fund and all other funds, there are something called a program reporting code. It's different, it's a numbering system to identify different pots of money within a fund. So your first section there, of course, these budget amendments on this page are for the state public school fund. First section there, if you'll look in the column, description of code, scan down about 4 lines there, you'll see something that's in bold. All right, that says PRC 15, that's School Technology Fund. If you'll scan back up 1-2 more lines, you'll see the revenue there. All right, if you'll scan over to the credit column, that means we received an increase in our allotment. Okay, so that's kind of how I'm going to go through these budget amendments. So what we've got here is PRC 15, School Technology Fund. We received an additional $13,439, and we plan to use that for supplies and materials. So now we're going to go through the speed section. Okay? Next down is PRC 29. This is behavioral support. Received an allotment of $56,000. Plan to use that for an EC teacher salary and benefits. Next section down is PRC 39. Safer Schools, the allotment was $56,307. Plan to use that for contract services and equipment. And the last section, this is a good example, this is also PRC 15 School Technology Fund. In the revenue line item, you'll see that $28 is in the debit column. That means we received a reduction in our allotment. So we just simply reduced the budgeted amount for supplies and materials. Okay, next page. All right. This is a budget amendment for the federal fund. This is PRC 60, IDE 6B. This is for exceptional children. This budget was not approved until recently. It was not part of our uniform budget. I submitted to the school board in November a uniform budget that is for all 6 of these funds. Now, not every program reporting code was approved at that point in time. So this is one that has been approved afterward. So the amount of this budget is for exceptional children in the federal fund is $357,068.95. That's for EC purposes, mostly for salary for teachers and teacher assistants. All right, on the next page, again, you as well as any other board member can stop me anytime you'd like.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
The next page, these are budget amendments to the federal fund. First section there is PRC 108, student support. The allotment there is $58,333.34. These funds are spread out among the 3 individual schools, and we use this for field trips, contract services, equipment, and computers, and parent involvement supplies. The next section down is PRC 206, principal supplement. The amount there is $10,556, and that's a federal supplement for a principal. Next page is also a budget amendment for federal fund. This is for PRC 110. This is 21st century after-school grant that we received. The other board members know that each year we receive $400,000 for this after-school grant. But as you'll see that the allotment there for this fiscal year is $534,574.70. This budget runs from October 1 through September 30th. All right. So the additional $134,000 was funds that was unspent last July 1 and carried into this fiscal year. Okay, so majority of those funds are used for the after-school director, coordinators, tutors, salary and benefits for those, supplies and materials, There's also a contract with Sticko Valley Center. Each year we give them $60,000. Next page, this is a budget amendment, also to the federal fund. You'll notice in the credit column, there's no entry there. This budget's a big budget. It took 2 pages. So if you would, please look to the page after that. In the credit column, this is PRC 181. This is ESSER 3. Again, these are federal funds. This is a carryover budget from last year. So it's a large budget. The amount carried over into this fiscal year is $1,762,955.36. And again, that's a large budget. Just scan through that. I'm not going to go through that in any detail at all.
And this is the last year for that.
No, we have another year for these funds. We can carry these over into fiscal year 24.
So this money will not all be spent this year? About half of it will be spent for the next fiscal year.
All right, and the last budget amendment, this is to Fund 8. And again, Fund 8 is where we account for individual grants. This particular budget amendment is for PRC 670. This is the K-12 COVID testing grant. And this is an increase from the original budget. So the original budget was approximately $86,000. The additional revenue or additional allotments, $41,035. We plan to use all that for supplies and materials for the COVID testing grant. The grant, though, funds salary benefits for 2 nurses for COVID testing. So the total budget for that grant is approximately $127,500.
So just to clarify, it actually funds 2 nurse assistants to help on each of the campuses. It does not fund any COVID testing, but we don't do COVID testing at school. That's just the name that the state has sent. It just funds additional people to be in the nurse's office to help with, student wellness, any kind of general wellness that's going on. Part of this money also goes toward staff wellness programs. We're looking at setting up some staff wellness centers in each school. So, an opportunity maybe have some, what do you call it, infused water or, maybe a calm environment for a staff member to go sit in. Those kind of rooms, a calming room, I guess. It also, we're looking at using some of that because part of it could be looked at as student wellness. We're looking at using part of that money to renovate the alternative school a little bit, to update some of their facilities to make it more, I wouldn't say more comfortable, but more student friendly at the alternative school. So that is part of what's going on.
Is this, our assistants, now they're also under the 3-year, will this carry over?
This carries to the end of this year, this particular
This is
grant.
just till the end of this year for our assistants,
That's
correct?
correct, yes. This money's through June 30th?
It is.
Yes.
So I'm to understand that the testing is not done on this, so there's nothing to do with testing.
We don't do.
That was the name of the grant.
Anywhere, not even in the school-based health center.
Okay, so no
Even when you go to their website for us to
That's just what's.
request a reimbursement, that's what it says on the website. So that's what I named the grant for. But that's not the purpose of the funds are used for.
Is there anything we have to do to get that money? So like a list? I was in commissioner meeting. I really don't know about this stuff necessarily. I was in a commissioner meeting and I heard the lady over the money say, well, we have to stay within really strict guidelines. And it never had occurred to me until she said that there's a strict guideline to some of these grants. Do we have a strict guideline on how we're supposed to spend this money?
Yes, I mean, we
You
have.
could say that about almost all of our grants.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's not hoops you jump through, if that's what you're asking, maybe, like, so do you have to test, 10% of the kids, or not those kind of requirements, but that you do what you say you're gonna do in the grant. If it's, you're gonna employ 2 nurse assistants, then you're gonna do that, and there's reporting that goes along with it.
Yes, I bet there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the financial reporting and ask for reimbursement each month. But there are other program-related reports that are done either monthly or quarterly as well, that's, done by other staff members.
Where do I go to get that? Like, you gave me this, and you gave me my E&O information on insurance and stuff. Is there someplace on the website? I mean, I don't want to have to always bother you. I don't mind going to look stuff up, I just kind of get lost in there.
Well, you've got different folks that oversee different grants. In this particular case, I think Letitia Wiggins could give you some of the guidelines.
I'm already dealing with it. Yeah, okay, that's who Letitia's.
And that funding comes through the Division of Health and Human Services.
Okay, I get it.
So you can tell how strict.
I can just tell you that I did a webinar on school finance, and it is one of the most difficult things, jobs. There was the guy that did the webinar, he moved from the corporate world to school finance, and he said, I have never dealt with anything like this in my life in Johnston County. And that's the reason I took the webinar, and I've asked Mr. Green a lot of questions, and he's helped me a whole lot.
I know, you've been very nice.
It's
So
tough.
it is tough, and we've got a great staff.
As you can see, there are a lot of budget codes on these spreadsheets.
Yeah.
We have thousands of budget codes within school finance. And each one has a different fund, a different purpose, a different program reporting code, which is a different pot of money. And you have object codes that tells you whether it's a salary or a workshop or supplies and materials. So it's very detailed. It's
Yeah.
like,
It'll take me a while to get through all that, but I want to, because I just want to see what they're asking.
sure.
Mr. Green, going back to page 3, under the after-school budget, after-school program, and I probably know the answer to this, the cafeteria staff, $7,000, they provide snacks. Is that the snacks
do.
they provide for the after-school?
They do.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They work maybe 30 minutes to an hour each day.
Well, I know, but I thought that's probably what that was. And then the coordinators and tutors, you just lumped all of those together.
Those are
Middle
together,
school-
yes.
Middle school, elementary, and,
They're all together.
yeah,
Right.
okay.
School-wide.
Okay. Thank you.
More questions?
Thank you, Mr. Green. Any more questions?
Thanks for the personal attention.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
And Ms. Dencher, you're going to find Mr. Green, Ms. Knight, Mr. Moody, and all of these people, they work for us, and you're going to find that they are the best at what they do. This man here, I don't know how he does what he does. I just take him and he tells me what, and I accept that. So these people are working for us, and we let them do their job. That's the way it is. Personnel, Ms. Knight.
Yes, during closed session, I'll bring you a host of different positions. Ms. Cable indicated we had some changes and some vacancies and some people that moved to different positions. So I'll be sharing that with you during closed session, and we'll come back out and you can vote for essential information. You would vote when we come back out in open session.
Okay, all right, after.
Okay, I'm going to have to regress a little bit here. Do I have a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented by Mr. Green?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Health Services Option Review, Ms. Knight.
So yes, Ms. Tinchell asked some questions, and she's a new board member in the learning process, and she has some questions regarding the school-based health center. In your packet, I have provided with you the contract for the school-based health center, and just as a review for the community, the audience, and for Ms. Tinchell, who's not been a part of this, our school-based health center is a contractual agreement that we have with Erlanger Hospital. They, all we do is provide their space and their utilities. There is no money exchanged there because it's all billed directly to families or to insurances. Students that are a part of that have to be approved by their families. It's a direct relationship and with the Erlanger, not through the school. That particular clinic, it's a model that is many school systems have across the state. We've had it in the years past, but there was I don't know, 15 years, I guess, that we really couldn't find a provider. And now we're able to be back in that relationship, but there are no, one of your concerns was there are vaccines or immunizations or shots. They do no vaccines, immunizations, or shots in the clinic at all. It's just purely a drop-in clinic. Kids can go have a strep test. It's for, I guess the biggest benefit to families would be that a parent wouldn't have to leave work. They could see a nurse practitioner. She can prescribe medication or refer them home, or call the parent, and the parent wouldn't have to leave work to come down and take a child to the doctor. It's also available to staff and staff families for the same reason, and it helps us keep staff at school, not have to have as many subs. They can run over there during their planning time, do what they need to do. They help us with sports physicals for kids, those kind of things, and as needed. And I'm glad to answer any questions, but we don't have any, there is no additional money that's involved, or it's a service. It's not something that the board has to vote on because it's a service provided, and there's a contractual amount. I think it's $25,000 or $50,000. I think it's above that, and you have to, as a board, vote, but it is not because there's no contractual gain on our part. That's kind of that in a nutshell. Have you got some?
So basically, the email I sent you, you just pretty much answered all my questions on it. I'll have to go over my email again, because gosh, I've slept in 20 times. I won't
Sure, but if you have more questions, you're welcome to ask more, but that's essentially how that is. And the board has met, Rochelle Phillips with Erlanger is, she directs that through the Erlanger system. And then we have a new provider, which I would like to invite to the board meeting. The next meeting is Tori Richardson. She replaced Debbie McDaniels that was there. And Tori, we're glad to have her. She's a nurse practitioner.
Excuse me.
Debbie McDaniel.
With Erlanger?
Yeah,
Okay.
she took a different position, so
Okay.
Tori has replaced that, but we're real happy with her, and I'll introduce her to the board at the next meeting. So, the other issue, that Ms. Dinchell had some concerns with, and I'll let her share her concerns, but I did include in your packet the updated advice from the, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services regarding any kind of COVID.
Okay, I only gave it first.
Yeah, that's the update, and then if you have, the rest of the guidance has always been online. Here are some copies of that. This is just the whole toolkit. If you want that, it's online. Y'all are welcome to copies of this if you want it to. And there you go.
It's really no longer in effect though, is it, the toolkit?
Not really. I mean,
They say refer to the CDC.
yeah. So the only masking that is recommended is that when a student has been COVID positive and returns to school, that they would wear a mask for 5 days if they choose, and if not, then they're welcome to stay out 10 days and not have to wear a mask at all. And we work with them with their assignments, and
And
so
they're not counted absent.
that's correct.
How
That
do
would
we
be
know if a
something
child's
to
been tested positive for COVID? The parents just have to tell us something.
It's an honor
I mean, that's up to the
Yeah.
parents to tell us.
It's an honor
It
system,
would.
so, I mean,
So it's
that's,
not mandatory. It's not considered mandatory under the wood.
it's a recommendation that they wear a mask and wear a mask.
A recommendation. If they didn't, you wouldn't be mad and send them away.
I usually wouldn't even know who's been positive.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think that's there. But I just want everyone to know, I want to know if there's a mandatory, if there any place I can go to find that, or if it's mandatory. I mean, you know the difference between it. It's like if it's recommended, but I'm going to kill it here. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you a break. Bless your heart. I want to make a motion to absolutely there's no mandatory masking. Can I just make that mandatory? No mandatory masking in our school system. Flat. Now, everyone can say whatever you want, and I'm fine if I don't win it, but I'm just saying I want to do it because I'm legally responsible. I just got this from Lester. This is an E&O policy. You know why I have to have it? Because I could make an error or a omission or do something wrong, and somebody can come after me personally and sue me. Now, I do have a homeowner's policy that covers for me on that too. But the point is, I don't want to get to the point where people can sue me. I want to make sure you know right out front. She's taking notes, Miss Susie back there, the sweetheart. This is being filmed, and we got all these witnesses so that you know that mandatory masking, as far as Hank is concerned, has been 100% I've done everything I can to stop that, and that's why I want to make the motion. And if somebody wants to second, or you want to take it up, Mr. Nelson, I'll just let you be.
Let me just ask the principal something. At this point, when a child has been out sick, do you know of a child coming back to school with a mask? I mean, if they choose to come back with, they choose to come back
A lot
with
of
the
families
mask.
are
We
You
got
know,
some kids that are still wearing masks in the high school. It's
their
2 or 3,
I
and
know.
that's their choice, but we have not put a mask on them.
That is their choice. I agree with you there, but I'm saying when they come back to your school, you do not say you have to put a mask on.
No.
Okay, I think that clears that up. Does it not?
I'm clear, I feel good, Pam, about that, because I've already made my point. If I have to get in a court of law, they're just gonna play this, and that's the end of it.
I feel some people will do that, and I think there's gonna be some children that will wear a mask from now on.
Yeah.
We have about 3 kids that wear a mask. And so, and then we have, most of the time, if a child tests positive to COVID, we get something, a fax from the clinic or something, and a lot of the kids, the parents will choose to keep them out for 10 days. But then we've had kids that have come back earlier and they wear a
But the
mask.
parents
but
do
we
not
don't.
have to keep them out for 10
They
days.
do not.
They don't have to keep, once they are symptom free,
Right.
they can come back to school, and it's not a requirement that they wear a mask.
Right.
So I think we're good, Ms. Gentry.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask this, you're telling me that you think someone from the clinic is sending you information about a child if they were positive for
Well, we
COVID?
may or may not get it. I mean,
We may or may not get
Be
it.
careful.
Sometimes we get it, but you know, from the parents, they'll have them send it to us. We don't get it from everybody, and I'm sure there's some kids that probably are not tested. You know, parents choose not to test them, so.
Yeah, and I agree with
Like,
you.
we don't get it from 100% of the kids, and we don't request it, but.
And you don't, and it's probably not a policy, but I mean, it could sound like that, that's the
Right.
reason I said.
No.
So let me say this, in our attendance policy, though, in order for it to be an excused absence, they have to have a doctor's note. So if they've been to the clinic or whatever, they will forward us that saying they've been seen, but it doesn't necessarily say that, hey, they tested positive for COVID, or they've had the flu, or whatever. Usually the parent brings it in and says,
My kid was.
Johnny had flu A, or Johnny tested positive for COVID, you know, that's.
Well, you know, I think some people are right proud that they tested positive for COVID, to be honest with you. I don't know why, but for some reason, they want to tell people. They want to tell people that they tested
But
positive.
still,
for COVID.
even to go back to attest to what Mr. Matheson is saying, even if a child goes to the doctor and is seen, it's at that parent's discretion whether they choose to even allow us to know
Yeah,
that
that's
information or
correct.
not.
Yes.
It's just an unexcused absence if we don't have a doctor's note. So, you know, if they choose to not report that information to the school, that's their option as well.
But kids are having flu, strep, and COVID at the same time, or they're having. And they're having multiple things go on.
And I guess I should clarify, when we get a note from the clinic, or it will say, you know, Tanya Walsh was seen here today, please excuse her through, you know, January 10th, you know, and it doesn't necessarily give a diagnosis. But parents, most of our parents will tell
I
us.
share it.
So, and if they don't, the kids do, so. Yeah.
Well, I guess I misspoke when I said they're proud to say that they've had COVID. I think they feel a responsibility to say that they've had COVID. But they also, as much as strep and as high Omicron as strep and flu is, it's as bad as the COVID at this point,
yeah.
to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, it is, and it's fun.
I don't think there's the stigma with COVID anymore because so many people have had it. And so it's not that the kids are like, you know, don't tell anybody I had COVID. I think it's just like, I've had flu, I've had COVID, I've had some.
Well, I think they don't say I had COVID because other kids that were exposed to them haven't stayed in school, and that was really kids were saying, don't you tell them,
Right.
don't you tell anybody that I've had COVID.
Well, and I'm thankful for the fact that since 2020, now with 2022, 2023 so far, we've got to have a normal school year. When we've been able to stop having to quarantine people that are close contacts and we're, you know, making kids stay home for 10 days and all of those things are behind us. So at the elementary school, 2022, 2023 so far has felt like the first normal school year in a couple years, and I'm
That's
thankful
right.
for that.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that.
For sure. Well, I hope we don't follow suit, because New Jersey is starting back to school today, and they're putting their kids back in masks.
I don't see that going on.
I hope we don't follow suit, which I hope we don't, because there's too many illnesses out there.
Okay, let's move on. Mr. White,
Mr.
RMS.
Wait, I have one more thing to say, I'm so sorry. It got into the conversation. I have one more motion to make, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know why I apologize, and I have to do this, I don't have a choice, my voters expect me to do it. I want to make a motion with an explanation, because you're going to freak out when I say it, but just hear me out, please. I want to ban all masks on the property, and I would like it to even read like this. We are a mask-free zone. And I know everyone's going to say, what are you going to tell these kids they can't come to school, and parents, and maybe staff and teachers are doing it? I don't want to tell you to do anything. I just want you to understand from the seat I'm sitting in, I'm not sitting over there anymore. I'm sitting here. Again, I'm legally responsible for everything, so I need to be full disclosure in here of what I know. I know that masks harm children by poisoning them. I know that because I put a mask on and I felt the carbon dioxide go back in, and I personally felt poisoned. I felt icky. I had a reaction. And you know what? When I looked up the carbon dioxide poisoning symptoms, that's what I experienced. Of course, I took my mask off and didn't wear one. But I started asking questions. I asked questions of all kinds of people. Children, little kids, everybody. And they all gave me the same symptoms. Pardon me?
I was just saying, what is the motion?
Oh, the motion is I wanted to phrase it this way. A ban on masks. A mask-free zone. How about that? Ms. Davis, I would ask that you, if you know what I'm trying to say, you can put it in any wording that makes
I'm
it.
just asking what the motion is.
You know, I already said
So
I
if I'm getting over the flu and want to come in here with a mask on just to protect the rest of you, you don't want me to do that.
Well, we know you can. We know you can, don't you? But I'm saying, no, I don't want that.
This is school grounds, so you're saying anybody that chooses to wear a mask, they can't do it.
Well, check, give me a chance. You're
Let
not going to move on.
me clarify something.
Okay, please.
I know where you're going with this. I think you're concerned about the masks when they come back to school. But we have some children, and the principals can tell you this, we have some children wearing masks that need to wear the mask. They need to wear those. Do you agree with me? I mean, we can't make it a mask-free zone because we can't let those children think that they cannot wear their mask. Because we say alcohol-free, we say tobacco-free, and it's hard for us to make that wording that strong because we're going to have some kids that think that they cannot wear their mask.
Because Ms. Walsh and Mr. Matheson have already said they have students that wear a mask and they're not made to wear them.
No, I've seen that, and I've seen
We have it at the elementary as well. We have a few.
Okay. I didn't
You all want to
know.
comment on what I'm saying, that we just can't make that a mask-free zone? We think we'll have some children that
One of the
think.
students that I have, her mother is going to do chemotherapy right now,
Oh.
and the mother's doctor wants her wearing a mask, and the little girl wears a mask every day. We don't make her. If she wants to take it off, she can take it off, but that is something that the family wants, and the mother's doctor wants it. So, I mean.
Can I also reiterate, I know now, my father right now has COVID, and they're still recommending, doctors are still recommending if you've had the COVID shot, after 5 days, you wear a mask. Those are still doctor's recommendations, so you would still have some people want to follow doctor's recommendations wherever they are, and some not, but that is still their protocol.
I think the motion might be better suited if it said something like, if you choose to wear a mask when you come back from an illness, whether it be COVID, strep, or whether you have an immune compromised person in your house, if you choose to wear a mask when you come back to school, you can do that.
That's where we're at now.
That's where
That's where we are now.
And we really are there, you're there anyway, but it's hard for me to say, because I know how children think. They're gonna think, I can't wear a mask, and that's not something we can do. But I think we're there. I mean, that's what I said, we're there.
I would just give me a minute. I mean, I would listen to all y'all. Even if I didn't agree, I'd listen to you. Would you just please listen for a minute? I mean, it's more
We've
than
listened for a while now, and it sounds like we're beating a dead horse.
because you don't know what I got. How would you know?
We know what you got because we've read your letters to the editor, we've read your emails, and I think we need to move on.
Well, you can make a motion.
So you're not gonna let me explain?
Have you got is there a motion?
I just made a motion.
Let me hear your
I mean,
motion.
that's- I
Instead
just
of,
made my
instead
wording.
of
That's all your
talking
wording.
and instead of, taking up a lot of time, tell us your motion. Bottom line.
Don't make it mass-free school zone.
Tell us your motion and we will either second it
It
or,
lasted this long because y'all are talking when I just wanted to explain something. I'm getting mad as hell in here. You guys don't give a crap about what I have to say. My voters can vote me in and I'm just gonna sit here and shut up. You got it. Move on.
thank you. RMS construction progress, Mr. White.
Well, if you've been by the new construction, we've got a beautiful facility. It's something that I think we all should be very proud of. I know that Western Builders has done a tremendous job, and we are finally, after a couple of years here, to the point we've been waiting on.
Yeah.
And I don't have a whole lot to add to what Ms. Walsh has already said, but like I said, it's a beautiful facility. We do have the certificate of occupancy now. Well, we have the approval from the fire marshal. I guess we don't have the actual paper in hand yet, do we? But
I'm not sure about that. The fire marshal is out of Silva, that's Jackson County, that was certifying it, and he was gonna fax it to Jacob Nelms, so I'm not sure if Jacob's received it yet, but we do have approval.
But we do have the permission to occupy the building. And so I know that, we've made, I think Ms. Walsh may have mentioned this a little earlier, but we have been wanting to do, and we're going to do an open house and a dedication to the new building. But right now, there's just some things that need to be completed first. Like for instance, in the roundabout out in front of the building, there's still some light poles down, sitting on the sidewalk, being ready to put up. So, we don't want a whole lot of traffic through there and stuff like right now. So right now, I believe that we are looking at, hopefully, depending on the weather and how things can move along this week, we're looking at hopefully having an open house next Monday, the 9th. If that doesn't work, weather doesn't cooperate, we're not able to get that stuff done, then we may put it off until the 16th, the following Monday. But we will certainly make you aware of that as soon as we know that date. But again, we have a beautiful facility, something that I think we all can be very, very proud of, and I certainly hope that all of you can be there for the open house, the dedication to the facility, because it's just an absolutely beautiful place, and I know it's something that our community will be proud of. I know it's something our school, ourselves, Ms. Walsh, I know that's something that we're very proud of, and so we're looking forward to getting in it and having this open house.
Do we have any idea if that's a possibility of an open house?
The 9th through the 16th.
We're hoping for next Monday the 9th.
Oh, I missed that. The 9th and the 16th, okay.
But now again, that's weather related, how much they can get finished this week and if we're able to do that, we will do so. If not, we'll put it on the 16th.
That's what I'm thinking. Let's
Did you
just
say
put it
the
to the
16th?
16th.
We can have a hard day by then.
What's the MLK holiday?
That's on the 16th.
The 16th.
Let's do the 17th.
I only know that because I have a massage and facial booked at Serenity in the mountains on that day, so I have it marked on my calendar.
I know I'm open to whenever we would like to set that. Ms. Walsh, I'd like for you to make
Why
that.
don't you look at the dates and what works with you?
I mean, we can do it the 17th, that's fine.
And we'll get the time out and we'll share that by email.
Tuesday. What's the 9th?
From what I'm gathering, Ms. Mott, we are scratching the 9th, and we're going to do it on 17th.
Oh, okay, wait a minute.
Okay, maybe we're
Let's don't
not.
do the 17th. Let's look at another day.
Now, wait a minute. Ms. Walsh, what did you say?
Scratch the 17th.
Scratching.
Well, let us just get with you, let's look at our
Yes.
calendars, and then we'll just kind of
But you're
gauge.
religious when I done doctor's report, I know you are.
Well, I had it up to the 17th. Well, we try to, let's do the best we
Let's do
can.
it when
And I don't have our testing schedule with me, and so I know that we're gonna be doing some, assessments and stuff too, so I'd like to look at those dates, just, you know,
If
because
the
kids
board
will be
knows
in the
that you
building.
won't be here in mid-January, if you can let me know that, and we'll try to
Yes.
schedule around you. If you know those already, how about that?
Okay,
So we're scratching both of them.
so for right now, we will have an open house very soon. And we will make certain that you know the time and the date for that. But again, it's a very beautiful facility, something I know that we're all going to be extremely proud of. And that's about it.
Okay, Ms. Davis, board policy,
All right,
first reading.
you have the attachment to the agenda. There are 8 policies. That looks overwhelming, but the main thing is, if you look at 1310, the very first one is parental involvement. It's really notifications. Those are the required notifications for parents and students. And under A, parent communication and conferences, it's just school personnel is mandated to have parent conferences, but it's always subject to policy 5022 of registered sex offenders. So we have to remember when we have open houses and that type of thing, we are still subject to policy 5022. Under A, the third bullet, that's a required notice for first and second grade regarding reading progress. Then B, parental notification. Most of these are federal requirements, okay? And if you look from B 1 through 14, they're all federal requirements. What's changed is number 11. It used to be just the student was informed of available opportunities for advanced courses, but you have to inform the student not only of available opportunities of advanced courses, but the enrollment process. And then if you continue through, there is C, and then D, parental permission required. And the change there is student access to the internet, period. It used to be just when the student, it's D11. And it's wording, a lot of these are clarifications. The wording used to be independent access. In other words, the student just sat down at the computer and independently began something. It's student access, period, on the internet.
D11 has changed, is that what you said?
Excuse me?
D11 has changed?
Yes, to say student access regardless. It used to say independent, without supervision.
Just for information purposes, like for D11, for the students' access to the internet, at the beginning of the year when students enroll, all families sign that technology use acceptable use policy. And it's also every time you turn a computer on in Graham County Schools, it's there. And so we're already doing that, but that's just kind of what that means.
I think, I'm right, I think you are, but I feel obligated, when there is a required. These are required changes. It's sort of like the State Health Department. This is the State Board of Education, and they have strongly recommended or required. So I do the required changes. So on policy 1710, these are all federal legal requirements for public schools. Again, minimal wording has changed. If you'll go to B is reporting discrimination or harassment. The federal law requires an anonymous tip line in a public school for grades 6 through 8. That's the minimum, but you all can modify that. But you at least have to have your anonymous tip line for grades 6 through 8.
You do.
You do.
It's available for
everybody. And then if you'll go to C, think, when we do case law during board training, this is where I harp on paper trail, paper trail, paper trail. These are investigations, either a staff complaint of sexual harassment or student complaint of bullying and harassment. You've got to make a paper trail investigating. The schools that have been in trouble, they can't find the paper trail. They can't confirm dates, they can't confirm interviews. And so it's just a reminder that you need to write down dates and times and who you interviewed and keep notes in a safe place. Okay. Then on, and I need to confirm this when I redo it, on contacts for inquiries. I've had Christy Cable was the 504 coordinator. Then I have Kevin White for ADA, age discrimination, and non-discrimination laws. So I had Christy under I, and then Kevin for 1, and Kevin White for 3. Is that still correct?
I think that's fine.
Okay. There's Where's Christy? There's, okay, all right. Policy 2123, remember this is first reading, so you can look these over. Board member opportunities for development. This is just, it hadn't changed. You still need 12 hours every 2 years, and you still need 2 hours of ethics within that 12 hours. What's changed and what you're going to stop seeing is the National School Board Association. Our State Board of Education, and our North Carolina School Board Association has withdrawn from the National School Board Association. You're just going to start seeing the Consortium of State School Boards Associations. So don't ignore that, it's us. The Consortium of State School Board Associations. And that's multiple states, it's not just North Carolina. They just organized a new entity. Okay.
Attorney Davis, this might be an opportunity, since we're talking about board training, I know it's policies, we're talking about board policies and review of board policies. There is some upcoming training available to board members, and Ms. Knott, you have that available. Would you share?
Well, yeah, I would like to go to this, and if any board member wants to go with me, this is a sharpen your leadership skills. This is with RESA and the North Carolina School Board Association. It's a leadership education development training series, leading training program. Training focuses on leading and governing basic boardmanship, leading and governing community engagement. And it is January the 26th from 1 to 3. Lunch is going to be provided just before, and it's at the Hazelwood Conference Center. And it is $79 a person. Like I say, I'll be glad to drive.
Is there a deadline for?
I want to go. I don't know. I just printed this off. This just came on. So, Miss Beasley, I can give this to you, and you can get in touch with them. And apparently, this is something new. It is a newly added video library for the North Carolina School Board Association Video Library subscription service. It is cost-effective for all board members to access content 24/7. The subscription bundle is current and upcoming videos to be recorded this year for one price, and it runs from August 1st to June 30th for $1,500 subscription. And of course, we have to have our log on for our information. And the first video that was up, the very first video that was up, was Perennial Rights Under Federal Law. And I would love to see this. I would love to watch this. And you can watch these like 24/7 when they put them up. So I think these are two really good things for our board members to have access to.
So
Did you say $1,500?
$1,500, but it's for all of us. It's for all
And
of
that's
us.
policy 1310 that you just reviewed. That video would comport with.
Right, so
Okay.
I guess the question for the board is, do you feel like that's a worthwhile purchase? And if so, would.
Like I say, it runs from August 1st to June 30th, and they put these things on
Maybe
there.
put it on the board agenda for the next, if you're going to vote on it
Okay.
or amend it.
Well, I want to go to
Have to
this
vote on
January
that.
the 26th. If anybody else wants to go with me.
Well, yeah, I don't think that it would be necessary to put the, I guess, do you give me the authority to get your subscriptions, I guess?
And Ms. Beasley can check into it, just to see, like I say, this looked like it was something fairly new when I was reading about it. I was going to, because I have never been able to access any videos, well, except some things that pop up, but not when I can watch them when I can watch them. So, which I think is a pretty good thing. It looks like a pretty good thing. That's just the first added video. So, and experts, I guess, are doing these, so. Okay,
So,
well, that's
so I
the
guess
two
back to
things.
my question of, are you authorizing me to make that expenditure out of local money for your videos?
Mr. Green, do we have a budget for the board?
You do have a budget for the board.
Okay, would that be enough? Would there be enough there?
Well, there is. I mean, it's possible, at the end of the year, we may have to reallocate some funds within our local budget. But if you think that's an expenditure that's worthwhile.
Well, it's something I would use. I don't know
Here's
about
my
the other.
recommendation, either amend the agenda or if you're gonna vote. If you're gonna vote on it, that's fine, just amend the agenda. Their material's always good in my opinion, but maybe give Lester a chance. If you're gonna spend $1,500, just
And do you want?
amend the agenda to put that on it.
Through June?
August 1st through June 30th.
Then is that for next school year? Because you already
It's my
have
understanding
that.
it is, but I figured maybe
So
Ms. Beasley
if
could
it's,
check
if
and
it's for
see.
next year, we can put it on next month's agenda.
Yeah, we can, because I feel like it is for next time, probably. I mean, August to June 30th, obviously it is, because this looks like it was new. I had not seen this.
Okay.
Well, you'd be making expenditure in January and only be able to use this for half a year.
Right, so
So
it'd be
you'd be
next
better
fiscal
off
year.
to discuss this at the next board meeting and then purchase it for the next school
Purchase it
year.
for the
So you get the
next
benefit of
Okay.
all year for your $1,500.
But I think this was new for this year, and I don't know how I didn't catch up on it. I had to click one of those little blue links, but I would like to do this if anybody wants to go with me.
Continue, Ms. Davis.
I'm sorry
Policy
to interrupt you.
34, excuse me.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. That was-
Oh, that's all right.
tangent.
Policy 3410, testing and assessment program. Main thing here on this policy is the first bullet. The State Board of Education, it's a requirement, not strongly recommended. It's a requirement for interventions, remedial instruction, and other assessments that only persons who are employed by the school system, either permanently or contractually, or who have professional training in education, can do interventions. Okay. That was it. Okay. Attendance. We have an attendance policy that we have structured for our meetings. The reason the attendance policy is on is that we're going to keep our same policy, but the change that we will have to add is under C9. What's been added is excused absences when a child's parent was active military. Now it's active or inactive. So we will have to adopt that. Otherwise, anything in here that doesn't comport with ours, I'm only going to transfer number 9 to our policy. Okay. Student records. Policy 4700. These are annual notifications, and the reason they're on the for reading is that again there are a few required changes, and one is C, classification and maintenance of records. Unless the parents opted out, we can release certain information. But what's changed is we do not release that a student is homeless. So that is not directory information. unless the parents opted out of directory information. If a parent doesn't want directory information released, we don't do it. But if they haven't opted out of it, we do it, except if it's a homeless student. We don't say homeless, even though that may be their address. We do not do it.
Now, say directory information, what are we saying there?
Parents' names, addresses. But the parents have a right to opt out release of any information.
Do they have to let the school know that?
Right, we do, that's part of the notice is to opt out.
Ahead of time?
Yes.
And
So an example of this, Ms. Knott, would be like the military requesting records, addresses, phone numbers of students, and each year at the beginning of the year, we give parents an opt-out form. If they don't want that released to the military, they sign that, and then we don't give that to the recruiters. Okay.
And in the elementary handbook, we've got a section in there that states that if you don't want directory information released, you let the school know that you opt out.
And do the folks, do the secretaries know that?
But I want to clarify something just for myself. So if we have a student who is on our homeless list and they transfer to another school system and that school system requests records from Robbinsville, it's just for public information. We can release that to that sister school or
Yeah,
whatever.
they'll need to know.
Yes, okay.
So if I call to get a student's address, they know,
We can't just give it to anybody.
we can't get it to them.
As a school board member possibly, but I'd have to look into that.
That's, you have to have
You
a
can't just hand
reason.
it out to the general public.
Whenever a school board member discusses a student, you have to have a reason. So if there were a reason.
I'll talk to you, Mr. Matson.
All right, and then F, military families, that was entirely rewritten. So when you read F, it's just basically been rewritten. And again, it's military families, and there's some exceptions for those across the board. Okay. There was one other thing, and it's more of a reminder, and it's really not new, they just changed the wording a little bit. It's back on C, classification and maintenance of records. C1D is redisclosure. When we get records from juvenile court or Department of Social Services, we don't have a right to redisclose until we talk to the agency that provided them to us. So redisclosure is a big thing with minors. Okay. Something else in this policy, in 4700, they added, you must comport with policy 4250, and I didn't put that in your folder. But policy 4250 is the North Carolina Address Confidentiality Program. You go through the Attorney General's office, and if I live, my real address is 85 Green Street, I never have to release that. I release something else, 14 Brown Street. I actually had that in my office for the first time. That wasn't their real address. They've gone through the Attorney General, and you can get a confidentiality program address. So, and that's the only one you can use, even though you know the student lives across the street down here on Ford Street.
So they can go through and get it.
They go through and get they live somewhere but get a different address. So, and that's in your student record policy. I've never seen it until about 2 weeks ago. So, registered sex offenders, 5022. That's a big deal. The definition's been total. That's all brand new. Okay, about registered sex offender and school property. Then if you go to B, it includes wherever you are with students. If you're on a field trip and you're at Dollywood, that's still considered school property, so to speak. So wherever you are with your students, you cannot have registered sex offenders nearby. Then,
Is that our, we have, are we responsible for burden of proof? How would we ever know? I mean, that's, obviously a sex offender shouldn't be at Dollywood
I think
anyway.
the purpose
But you take a kid to a restaurant to eat, how do you know who's working
the
there?
purpose of this is it always just said school property. Now it's wherever you have a group of students. If you have them down at the library, you're not held liable. This doesn't,
It looks to me like.
there's not a, liability doesn't per se attach to this. It's just, if you know someone's a registered sex offender, this is state law, it's noticed registered sex offender.
Or if we know it.
So this is
That's
5022.
understandable.
These are all general
Restaurant
assembly.
that was run by a sex offender. I mean, I guess you would not, will not do that.
I think it behooves you though to keep up with this sex offender
Yes.
registration.
So just, I mean, just for public knowledge, and for Hank as a new board member, and I don't know, and Jonathan know this, but all of our school principals, all of our administrators, our SROs are all connected where that we get a current sex offender registry, and if they move or they leave or come into our area, we have those notifications. And so we are aware, and I know that the SROs keep a very current list of everything, so we do have that.
So yeah, and I think this liability does not attach, David, to this, but I think it requires you to be proactive.
Right.
Like staying in touch with your SRO.
I'll look into that.
But this is state law. This isn't school board. I mean, these policies are state law, the General Assembly in Raleigh. So it's not just for us. I mean, it's in our section of chapter 115, but it's across the board for everyone. And this just happens to address school campuses about registered sex offenders. The other thing that changed is E. It's completely rewritten, and it's contractual personnel. And under the old, the General Assembly will come back and do a lot of clarification. And under the old one, it's just the contractor certifies that he has not employed any registered sex offenders. Well, this clarifies that the contractor and there's no exceptions. It's the contractor, the CEO, the partners, they all have to certify that they're not registered sex offenders, as well as the employees for plumbing and electrical.
So anybody that works in that.
Including the owners. So
that
it's
works
a
within that
clarification. And it has to be in our contract with the entity. So. And Lester and I, we've always had your employees, but now this changes it to everyone. The owners, particularly. Okay. And then public records retention. The big change here on policy 5070, if you'll go to A, the fourth bullet, any report received from the teachers and state employees retirement system is not a public record and is treated as confidential. I do not know what triggered that. But any report from the teachers and state employees retirement system is not a public record. So the definition's been changed to include this in what you do not disclose in a personnel file.
Which one is that?
50.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So that's the biggie. Otherwise we disclose, there are about 12 items that you do disclose from an employee personnel file. But it's been amended that nothing from the teachers and state employees retirement system. So that's the new requirement. So And that concludes, and then we'll look at for second reading in the next week.
Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Can I say something before we do, please? First, permission to speak?
You may speak.
Sorry, I got emotional. I usually cuss about that time, so emotions are better. I want to make the motion to ban all masks. I want to make the motion, and then it's the record. And I think I want to end the mask problem. I got other fish to fry. So if I get that on the record for my legal standpoint, I make a motion to ban all masking on school property because of the dangers it causes the people on the property and the children. And that's my motion, up or down, all banned on all masking. And I would have loved to explain it to you, but you can go to my channel and I'll be explaining it there.
Do I have a second?
3-318.11, parentheses A, parentheses 3, and 143-318.11, parentheses C. I move that the Graham County Board of Education go into closed session to receive advice from Ms. Ellen Davis, attorney for Graham County Board of Education, which advice comes within the purview of the attorney-client privilege. The advice will be general legal advice about legal issues or legal matters. Pursuant to the provision of North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, parentheses C, I move that the Graham County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of concerning personnel matters as defined in and allowed by the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, parentheses A, parentheses 6, and the North Carolina General Statute 115C-321.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we are now.
All right, we're in action items, so, Ms. Knight, what do you have for us, please?
I'd like to recommend for the position of elementary receptionist, Penny Postel.
All right, is there a motion to approve Ms. Postel as receptionist?
Oh, sorry. Second, yes, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
All right, I'd like to recommend as an interim teacher at the elementary school, Carly Cody.
Is there a motion to approve Carly Cody as an interim teacher?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
I'd like to recommend as an elementary teacher assistant, Billy Lemoyne.
Is there a motion to approve Billy Lemoyne as RES teacher assistant?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's unanimous.
I'd like to recommend as a elementary school-based specialist, Jordan Welch.
Need a motion to approve Jordan Welch as Robbinsville Elementary school-based specialist.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And that's unanimous.
I'd like to recommend as a middle school receptionist and custodian, Samantha Guffey.
Is there a motion to approve Samantha Guffey as middle school receptionist / custodian?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous.
I'd like to recommend as a middle school track coach, Dale Farr.
Need a motion to approve Mr. Dale Farr as track coach for the middle school.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
I'd like to recommend Barbara Eisenhower for the central office clerical position.
Is there a motion to approve Barbara Eisenhower as central office clerical position?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
I'd like to recommend the following, and then Susie, I will read these out, but I'll give these names to you. As substitutes, instructional substitutes, Taryn Anderson, Kayla Klontz, April Johnson, Linda Hooper, Taylor Okendo, Raven Rattler, Mabel Bowman, and Rebecca Carter.
Need a motion to approve the list that was read to us as instructional substitutes.
So moved.
Oh, yeah, he, second, sorry.
All in favor?
I'd like to recommend the following volunteers: Irvin Portugal, Stephen Sawyer, Ansley Fink, and Judith Bryan.
Motion to approve the red personnel for volunteers.
Motion.
Your second?
Second.
All in favor?
I'd like to recommend for the 21st Century After-School Workers, Blaine Adams and Sonny Pringle Jenkins.
Motion to approve Blaine Adams and Sonny Jenkins as 21st century workers. Your second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous?
And I'd like to recommend, at the recommendation of the interview committee, Jeff Knight as middle school and high school school resource officer.
Is there a motion to approve Mr. Jeff Knight as school resource officer at the middle school,
Yes.
high school?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes,
Unanimous? Ms. Knight, any other announcements? That got all the personnel, didn't it?
That did get all the personnel, thank you. Our next board meeting will be February the 7th at 10 a.m., but we will be having board training at 8 a.m. that morning here in this room. So board training on February 7th at 8, regular education, Board of Education meeting at 10 o'clock.
Questions about that? All right. Is that it? Anything else, Ms. Knight?
No, sir.
I have one thing I'd like to report real quick before you adjourn. Each month, we make a request, of course, for the 6th grade Wayne. That request was honored, but in addition to that, starting back last April, we had purchased mini splits and had those installed at the elementary school. Last month, I made a request. We paid for those up front using our local funds. That was recommended by DPI. But anyway, I requested a reimbursement request for those lottery funds, and that came in today. That was funds that we spent out of our own local funds, and they've reimbursed for that project. That's $249,901.
Hallelujah. That's not extra money, just so you know that.
Nope.
That's not extra money, that's the reimbursement to make our budget. That's always been, part of spending, yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Green. All right, motion to adjourn.